Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me. Um, this morning, what's really heavy on my mind is how our Congress, the Democrats and the Republicans, are truly against the American people. And they are not doing what they were elected to do. I think it's very serious that the House Republicans and 7 Democrats who voted to increase the Republican ICE Gestapo funding after the death of 2 Americans that were killed in cold blood. Then we had a 3rd American killed in cold blood by the Republican ICE Gestapo. And the Senate, because the package is now before the Senate, have a little bit of a frog in my throat this morning, trying to get him to jump out. But that the Senate are not just 100% saying, yes, we are not passing this. We are not funding they're calling them ICE, but they're not just ICE anymore. They're the Republican Gestapo. We're not funding. And we will not do this against the American people. I have not heard any representative aside from, I believe, 2, Ro Khan and actually the governor of Minnesota. Those are the only 2 people that are elected representatives that I have heard that this is a group of militia against the American people. Elizabeth Warren, she just made and I just posted this, but she just made another statement about that the Senate needs to restrict the Republican Gestapo's powers. No. How tone deaf do you have to be? She is truly showing her true colors, which are she's a Democrat centrist. And the fact that she keeps pushing for, let's restrict ICE's power, which is the Republican Gestapo, instead of, it's beyond me that she is not saying, no, it's a complete all stop. We defund 100% the Republican Gestapo. It's beyond me that every single Democrat is not saying we're against the Republican Gestapo and these Republican concentration camps. And they're not saying that. And that is a huge problem because they're supposed to be Democrats. They're showing that we've got a lot of Democrat centrists. I made a post with several pictures of Democrat progressives, Democrat or socialist. Some people are saying Democrat socialist. I like socialist better because I want that word to get its true meaning. Because Congress right now has socialist healthcare. Let's stop pretending that it's not socialist healthcare. Socialist healthcare is when all boats rise. Socialist healthcare is when the government, which is our money, pays for the service. And our money pays for premium healthcare for every one of those Congress people that are not representing and doing their job, but instead have gone rogue and decided they can turn against the American people. The Republican Party has decided they can turn against the Republican people. And we've got to show them they can't. That's what really it comes down to, right? And I was on it was not a podcast. It wasn't I guess it was a live, but it was on Zoom, but you couldn't, everybody was muted, um, with a historian in Nova Scotia who specializes on the American political system. And when we have something like what's going on right now, which is a fascist regime taking over what was supposed to be a democratic government. Because we're not. I mean, if anybody is still saying we're a democracy, has been living under a rock, because we are not a democracy anymore. And I'm going to post clips. He actually has he posts on TikTok, and he did post basically kind of a recap of what I sat in on this Zoom call with, it was basically kind of like he was teaching. And but the TikTok that he posted, it's like 10 minutes long, so I've got to like kind of cut it up and repost it because I think everybody needs to hear it. But it was really eye-opening. I did not realize some of the information he was saying. And now he's a scholar, and he specializes in revolutions, in democracy. And he was saying, I mean, it really sat heavy with me yesterday. He was saying that the Democratic Party has successfully convinced the American people that they're a captured party and they can't do anything. And he's like, it's a complete lie. And it's so that they don't look foolish and that they don't put themselves out there, and so that their weekends aren't inconvenienced where they have to stay on the Senate or the House floor. He said that, and he was specifically referencing the Senate, though, because the House has a whole different set of rules, right? And the Senate is designed to have, the filibusters and to have procedural situations to slow the roll and to challenge, right? That was the whole purpose of having two separate parties. I mean, two separate representatives, the House and the Senate. They serve different functions for getting stuff done and passed. That's supposed to represent the American people that vote for them as an extension of them, of us, to represent us. And this Congress, I mean, he has said that in the last 20 years. He said 15, 20 years. It really started about 18 years ago that the Congress has fully gone rogue and that they do not represent the people that voted them to represent them and as an extension of them. So, like, I have two of the worst senators, Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper, here in Colorado. They are the worst senators because they are Republican lights. I called, and I made a post about this, but last week I called Senator Hickenlooper's office, and I specifically asked, I want to know if he's in the Epstein files. Now, I've called and asked this many times, and I get the same runaround. So they give me a whole big political thing. I listened to it, and I said, okay, I don't want the political speak. I just want a clear, definitive yes or no. And they're like, well, but he sponsored a bill. And I said, that doesn't matter. Trump was all like, oh, yeah, we're going to release the Epstein files. And he is the Epstein file. And he knew that. It doesn't matter that Hickenlooper sponsored the bill. It doesn't mean he's not connected to the Epstein files. And it might explain why he keeps voting Republican light. And he's like, and so then the office said, well, we can't answer that. And I'm like, you represent me. You aren't an entity outside of me. I want to know if John Hickenlooper is in the Epstein files. A yes or no. And the representative said, No. And I said, okay, you're saying no, but the way that you're saying it is misleading. So I want you to say the whole sentence. John Hickenlooper is not in the Epstein files. And he's like, I'm going to hang up on you now. And he did. My representative hung up on me, refusing to answer. His staffers refuse to answer if he's in the Epstein files. I think we have the answer. John Hickenlooper is in the Epstein files. Michael Bennett's office, and he's running for governor, does the exact same thing. He will not definitively answer if he's in the Epstein files. So I'm really encouraging you all to call your representatives, especially your senators. Now, because of this bill right now that's in the Senate, on the Senate floor, to add more funding to the Republican Gestapo, but you should also call your House representatives. Mine is Joe Negese, and I called and I said, is he in the Epstein files? Definitively, no. Joe has no connection to Jeffrey Epstein, and he's not in the Epstein files. Now, Joe Negese is a man of color, and I think most of the people, I can't say 100%, but so far, the only people that have been connected to the Epstein files are white old men and white women. That's just evidence. That's not made up rhetoric. So I believe Hickenlooper is in the Epstein files. I believe Michael Bennett is connected or in the Epstein files as well. And those are my two senators. They are definitely Republican lights. Bennett is probably one of the senators, I don't know, after the last 7 that crossed the line and voted for the funding of the Republican Gestapo. Those 7 definitely need to go down. But before that happened last week, Senator Michael Bennett from Colorado, who's also running for our governor, he's not going to win, was the one Democratic senator who had voted the most for this fascist regime. Thank you. And I'm sorry, because I voted for Bennett. I voted a straight blue ticket, and that's why I voted for Bennett. There wasn't another blue option. And it's kind of like, what do we do when we are confronted with that? And that's what I don't want to go forward and be confronted with. I don't want any more Michael Bennett's or John Hickenloopers as my only Democratic choice. Because I'm not going to ever vote Republican. They're completely, if you're not aware yet, they're completely against the American people. That party needs to be extinguished. I'm not talking violence. I'm talking dismantled. Something else has to come in its stead. Congress has to be reimagined. This isn't working. And sitting in with this professor yesterday on this call, it was just eye-opening because the Democrats have pulled the wool over the American people's eyes. I was convinced too. I have said that, oh, well, they're a captured, the Democrats are a captured party because they don't have the votes to do anything. And that's actually a lie. There's a lot they can do. And I'm going to post his video. I'm going to break it down into chunks and post his video that he posted that was a recap of what I set in on. I was just really dumbfounded because he says this too, that he said this a couple of times, and I think he might say it in the video that I'm going to post, but that people repeat the verbiage to sound like they're literate and they haven't researched it and they just don't know that it's a lie. And I do a lot of research, and I thought I had come across the research that said the Democrats is a captured party in Congress because Elon Musk installed a Republican trifecta. Elon Musk installed Trump. And this is where our government has failed the American people and has gone rogue. Twice the Electoral College has elected a president against the people. George W. Bush Sr. did not win the popular vote, and nothing was done about the Electoral College. There was no repercussions. There's no accountability. And I remember the rhetoric in the 90s that, and I posted something about this yesterday, that standing up against that was made fun of. And that was what the Republican and MAGA base started around George W. Bush Jr.'s. He was a horrible president. The bottom two, Trump and him. And because he captured illegally the election. And both Trump and Bush Jr. need to go down in history as capturing a democratic election illegally, because that's what they've done. If something would have been done about Bush Jr., it would have set up the situation where Trump couldn't have captured the election in 2016. He actually paid for Electoral College representatives to vote for him because he knew he was going to lose. And they did. They flipped. Hillary Clinton, she wasn't my favorite. She's not my favorite person. I do think she's done some good. I think she would have been a good president. She won the popular vote. I think there would have been a lot she did that I didn't like. I think she is part of the problem. She is a Democratic centrist. She is definitely not the future. But at the time, she won the popular vote. Government has gone rogue against the American people. And the rhetoric around that started in the 1990s, where standing up and saying stuff and being mocked for it, that was the base and the start of MAGA. And it started with Bush Jr. From what I remember and from my research, because I remember that kind of rhetoric starting, because I was pissed. And people were just like, let the people that know what's going on take care of it. That was the rhetoric in the 90s. And that's what's gotten us in this problem of we're not a democracy anymore. We're fascist. I'm not, but the government is. There's a lot that Democrats can be doing. Now, I had made a post about what the Democrats could be doing. And I had asked this scholar you couldn't verbally ask. So I did send him an email asking, what are your thoughts on my ideas? And I haven't heard back. But my ideas is that the Democrats could definitely be holding parallel sessions, showing the American people what should be being done in favor of the American people, that this Republican Congress that's against the American people are not doing. I don't know. It still weighs so heavy on me because this morning, here comes Senator Warren, a Democrat centrist, saying that, well, on the Senate floor, what we need to do is rein in the control of ICE. She doesn't even call them what they are, Republican Gestapo. No, that's not what needs to happen. What the fuck? Abolish the Republican Gestapo, abolish ICE, abolish the concentration camps. This is really black and white. And Senator Warren just refuses that. That's how we know she's a centrist. That's why we know she needs to be voted out. I think Senator Warren is a lot of talk, and that's what you notice with centrist. Cory Booker, Jeffries, they talk a lot, but they actually don't do what the American people are demanding. So when I was on this call so he's a scholar of revolution, and he's in Nova Scotia. And I was on this call, it was kind of like a lecture, right? You couldn't ask questions, but he was lecturing. And he was just saying about how there's a lot the Democrats could be doing, but they're refusing to do. And the American people are buying it. And then they think by repeating, Stewart, absolutely, she needs to be gone. So this professor was saying, and again, he's in Nova Scotia. He's a scholar on revolution, and he said that the rest of the world sees it. The American people are still duped into believing they have a democracy. He's like, they haven't had a democracy for at least 10 years. And he's like, that's just fact. And he goes, just because the American people refuse to acknowledge it doesn't matter. It's fact. And then he said, and I can't remember his name, so I'm sorry, but I will post video clips that he posted. That's kind of a summation of this lecture he did. And so he said that there's a lot the Democrats can be doing. And instead they say that they're a captured party. And then people repeat that. I've repeated it. And they think they're sounding informed. I thought I was informed. I am wholly not informed after listening to his lecture and sitting in on it, but I did think I was informed. I thought I had done research, and I had, that clearly said there's not anything the Democrats can do. And I can see now how pervasive that lie is to lull the American people into believing that the Democrats don't have any control or power. It just made me, when I got off the lecture last night, it just made me so much more rooted in the fact that the only way forward for the American people at this point, living in a captured state, is to completely remove our money and our labor. I mean, it's the only way forward. We have to not, and I'm not talking about, okay, let's do an economic blackout for a day. It's not going to work. It has to be a full on, all stop. You are going to do what we want. This is our government. And we capture them through our dollars. I don't think he says this, the scholar that I sat in on yesterday, the lecture. I don't think he says this in his Zoom, and I mean in his video that he did, kind of like a recap of what the lecture was. But he said in the lecture that the American people have to get more wholly uncomfortable and take back their power by capturing the government financially. And he said, I don't believe the American people are willing to do that. I agree with him. I don't think there's enough American people willing to remove their dollars from this economy and their labor in order to take our government back. I have a course that teaches you how to remove your labor by starting a digital income stream. It's not an overnight process. Removing your labor is a multi-stepped process that you have to do. There really is no other way to remove your labor from this economy unless you're already an entrepreneur. Those people have removed their labor. Unless you're independently wealthy. Right now, if you're working for somebody, regardless if you're in the C-suite in a corporation or you're mid-management, you're a worker bee, just doesn't matter. If you're working for someone else, the only path forward for you to remove your labor is building a digital income stream. And there's just not enough people that are willing to do that. I have a course that teaches you everything from A to Z to do it. And I've been offering it in light of the 3 people that have been murdered in cold blood by the Republican Gestapo. I've been offering it. I offered it for 2 weeks. I'm offering it all week this week, where you join my paid Substack for $40 a year and you get my course for free for life. And I've only had a handful of people take up that offer. Right? I mean, I'm still selling it and marketing it through my Stan Store, but here I'm trying to make it easier for people to remove their labor. Not very many people are taking that offer. And I know how incredible my course is, and I know that it's college level. And I used it to build my income streams. I lost my I lost my house in a natural disaster in late December 30th of 2021. And at the time I had a small business in my house and I lost it too. And my small business was a social media boutique business. And so I typically always had 5 clients and I did their whole gamut of email marketing, website design, production, and maintenance. And then I did all their social media marketing, the whole trifecta. And I capped out at 5. I could only do 5 clients with that whole thing. And that pretty much was like 45 to 50 hours of, sometimes 60 a week. So it was a lot. But I didn't have the funding to be able to restart that business after the fire. And I was out of commission for like 3 months before I could get equipment back. And so I decided, and in 2022, I was just in shock and trauma and grief over the fire. And there's a lot there to unpack that in another call I'll do, on another live I'll do. But I decided that I needed to switch gears and I needed to go into digital marketing because Forbes was saying in 2022 that digital marketing was not going to stop growing and monetizing your skill set was the future. Forbes said that. Forbes is now saying that digital marketing has not stopped growing and it's going to be a 1 trillion with a T market by the end of 2027. They might be saying that that needle might have moved to like mid 2027 because I've heard some, but it's in 2027. It's going to be a $1 trillion market. And Forbes has said, digital marketing isn't affected by government regimes, tariffs, and you have a worldwide audience. And that's what I've been experiencing. And I have a lot of international clients because people outside the United States can clearly see that's what's happening in the United States. It is in some form or fashion happening everywhere. Food prices have gone up everywhere, not just from tariffs, which is happening in America, because of these ridiculous tariffs that the Republicans refuse, because the Republicans are wholly against the American people. They refuse to remove the tariffs. They have the power to do it. They can do it today. And our prices would decrease significantly. They refuse to do it. And that tells you a lot right there, too. I mean, I can't believe people can't see this, right? And say, fuck you. We are removing our money. Because removing your dollars is the quickest way. Because when you remove your dollars, you cut off Amazon, Walmart, Target. We should be boycotting still Target and Tesla heavy. We need those to be boycotted into the ground, out of existence. But we also have to remove our money from grocery stores. They're captured by just a few conglomerates that are owned by billionaires. And they pretty much own every food product out there, even the ones that you think are great. I mean, Annie's, no, they're bought out. Bubble Bars, bought out. Jason's Peanut Butter, which is local in Boulder, which I used to love, bought out. All bought out. And removing our dollars means locally. And this has gotten a lot of movement here in Fort Collins, Colorado, which I am 100% supporting. I'm so grateful for. And I'm going to post the spreadsheet for free. You don't have to be a paid subscriber to see it, but it will be in my downloads of all the businesses that are local in Fort Collins that are MAGA and Republican. And we are micro boycotting in Fort Collins, all of these businesses. And what does that look like? We're not buying their shit. We're not going into their businesses. We're removing our dollars from the Republicans that are here local and MAGA. Every community must do that. I don't think they are. Then at more of a national scale, you go to small grocery stores. I say this a lot, but we have one here that's locally owned called Esh, and I go to it. I go to Mexican markets, I go to those. Go to Asian markets, I go to those. Stop shopping, King Soopers, Publix, Trader Joe's. I mean, there are things in Trader Joe's I like, and Trader Joe's is, the other brother from Aldi. We don't have Aldi's. If we did, I would shop in Aldi. Trader Joe's has some practices with their employees I do not approve of. And the more I learn about Trader Joe's, the less I like them. And so I think their meat is trash. I don't buy their meat there. But there's other products I've bought at Trader Joe's pretty frequently. And I'm just reconsidering it. This is how we remove our dollars. We get inconvenienced. We have to make the extra stops. We have to go to the butcher. We have to go to the bakery. We have to go to the dairy. There's also some locally owned stores here in Colorado that just sell butter. And some of the butters are excessively expensive. I'm not going to purchase those. But then they have just normal butters as well that's locally made by dairies that you can go into these butter stores and purchase here locally. And I'm probably going to lean that way. Although making your own butter is super easy. The first line of resistance is our kitchens. It is. And I have an ebook I'm getting ready to publish. You do have to be a paid subscriber, but it has 20 of the easiest recipes to start in your kitchen as a form of resistance against this fascist regime. We are not a democracy. We stopped being a democracy when Elon Musk installed Trump and took over our data in a coup last January. And I got a ton of pushback on that. People were telling me I was spreading lies, and I reached out to several of those people. It was mainly on Facebook, people that I knew, and I got crickets. They didn't want to come back and tell me, oh, oh, I was wrong. I'm just really disappointed today. I'm just kind of, I just kind of feel this, I just kind of feel this disappointment because I have a lot of clarity this morning on just how ineffectual Congress is and just how horribly the Democratic Party have failed the American people because of lack of action and lies about their lack of action because they don't want to be inconvenienced. They don't want their weekend to be on the Senate floor. We already know the Republican Party is against the American people. I mean, if you haven't woken up to that, I don't know what to tell you. American people are murdered, gunned down in cold blood. Now, I think the other thing that needs to happen is that we need to defend ourselves against the Republican Gestapo. I think this bullshit that we don't get to defend ourselves because they have some legitimate authority is crap. They do not have legitimate authority. And our states can stand up and say, we do not recognize the authority of this fascist regime or the Republican Gestapo. Now, Colorado has a super Republican governor pretending to be a Democrat. Jared Polis is as useless as a wet noodle, and he's not going to do anything. I mean, these Democrats could, right now in Hudson, Colorado, they've opened up another Republican concentration camp, and people are protesting heavily against it. No one wants it. You don't see Jared Polis there. No, he's wearing a cowboy hat doing fucking stupid TikToks on a horse. The fuck are you doing? Jared Polis, get your ass to Hudson and protest with the protesters. But you don't see the governors, Tim Walz, I've seen him do it, but I haven't seen any of the other blue governors do this. Gavin Newsom, I like him. He needs to stay in his lane. I will not support him as a candidate outside of California. He is completely 100% against wealth tax. He will not tax billionaires out of existence, and that's a no-go for me. He's a centrist. Now, he's being a loud centrist, but and I love what he's doing, but he is a centrist. Anyone who refuses to defund ICE and reinstate FDR policies at 90% taxation against billionaires to wipe them out cannot be supported by the American people. Yeah, no to Gavin. Gavin is a no. And I think it's been also a play where, like the Elizabeth Warrens and the Gavin Newsoms, they do something and then it's played up big to distract from the fact that they're centrist. And centrists are not in alignment with taking care of the American people. Yes, I don't know how to say your name. Obladada. I don't know how to say that. But anyway, I agree with you because he has a super smart and creative social media manager, and she's in her 20s, and she has the pulse of the people, and she's knocking it out of the park. I agree. I think he has some females that are doing an amazing job for him. He himself is not the person that we want at all. I'm also a no to Harris. Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know the Beatles catalog. I love the Beatles, but I don't know their catalog. It's like I only know a few of their songs by memory, so I'll go look it up. But that's really cool and creative. Um, I'm not for Harris either. People are like trying. It's a distraction to start talking about the presidential campaign in 2028. It's a total distraction. And here's the reason why. That's not the step we're on. And the step we're on right now is that we have to do an economic blackout. We have to capture our government, the American people. And the only way we can do that is through our money. And the only way we can do that, we have to do it as a two-pronged approach. We have to do it by removing our dollars from the economy and removing our labor. Now, when we remove our dollars from the economy, we actually support our communities because we're removing our dollars from Republican businesses and MAGA businesses. We're removing our dollars from, yes, thank you, Brenda. I can hear the tune in my head. I'm really bad with lyrics, but I'm going to go look that up. I'm switching off of Spotify to a new one, a new streaming service for music that's woman owned, and I haven't memorized the app, and I'm still slowly doing it. It's painful switching off of Spotify, I have to say. But I am in the process of doing it. But we do have to remove our dollars. I just don't, I'm kind of like at a loss for words today just because it was such a sobering lecture that I was in yesterday. How this scholar on revolution basically just nailed the Democrats to the wall, saying there's a lot they can be doing. They just don't want to do it. I'll do a live on all the tools I'm moving to. I'm also we've got to cut the cord with like the Microsofts and the Googles and the Apples, and those are harder because they're monopolies that we've allowed these tech bros having control. And the path forward on that, in my opinion, is Linux. It's open sourced. And so, and I know people will say, well, Google's based on Linux. No, it's not. Android is a mutation of Linux, and Android is owned by Google, just like iOS is owned by Apple. There's a whole Linux is not owned by Google. Linux is not only Android. It's a subset of Linux. There's a lot. There's a lot with Linux. And, don't come after me saying, well, that's just Google, because it is not just Google. I mean, that's misinformation that people need to stop saying. So I'm going to be moving my laptop and my desktop over to Android. My son is a gamer and so is my daughter, and I've done the research and figured out the version of Linux that can handle gaming now. And so we're going to cut the cord with Windows. So that gets Microsoft out of our lives. We're going to cut the cord with Google and Apple. So that will get off iOS and Android. I'm a little bit slower on doing that because I have an Apple 13 phone. The last one, never will I buy Apple again. I'm done, right? No, I have an Apple tablet I haven't replaced yet. I think it's a tablet 8 or 10. I got it in 2020. And I do use my tablet. So I probably want to get another tablet. But I will not do like Samsung. I mean, that's a lateral move. I'm not making lateral moves. And so I know you can get an Apple 7 and you can put Linux on it and then you have to put Linux on top of the iOS on an Apple 7, which Apple doesn't support anymore anyway, so this is why you can do it on an Apple 7. I don't have an Apple 7, but I've done the research on this, and it is technical. But basically, Reader's Digest version is that you put Linux on the Apple 7 on top of the iOS, whatever version was last supported on the Apple 7, and then you remove the iOS system. It's not supported anyway, so it doesn't matter. Some people are even saying you can just leave it on there because of the fact that it's not supported by Apple. And that's why it's the Apple 7 that works. And then you have a Linux phone. I'm thinking about going that direction, right? And the Linux phone is powerful, and the government cannot track you. ICE, the Republican Gestapo, cannot track you. They are using Americans' phones to triangulate to find people to arrest, to kidnap. I shouldn't say arrest, to kidnap. When you leave the house, you should go on airplane mode. You should turn off your Bluetooth. I've been if I don't need maps, I've been completely powering my phone down when I leave the house. Um, I posted a video, I had a bunch of comments. This was useless. So I took that video down and I posted another video about how to turn your location services off. TikTok is more invasive now with location. So I guess I'm getting ready to remove TikTok. I mean, this was the whole plan, right? And Cory Booker was behind this whole plan to get TikTok taken over by a billionaire, Larry Ellison, turns out. Of course, he didn't know Larry Ellison, but he did know billionaire, to take it over under this ruse that China was doing something bad, which they weren't. It was Meta. Apple's doing now the exact same thing. Apple's totally in bed with this fascist regime. Yeah, they're not. They're not taking it seriously enough. I have moved my primary email over to Proton, and I love it. So it is a paid platform. And that's the thing. We've got to get used to, we have to pay to play. The reason what we've been doing is, we get a free platform and now you get all our data. You can geofence us and you get all of our location data. So now you know every place we are, to the exact location. If we're standing in front of pencils at a Walmart, you know exactly that we're standing in front of pencils and we either purchased or didn't purchase, and then you can send ads to us based on where we were standing. Oh, good. You've moved to Proton. Um, I'm using LastPass as my password wallet. And I've never had any of my data stolen. I really love LastPass. And they're also not in America. We have to cut the cord with America. Yeah, so Proton is in Switzerland. I am getting ready. Has anyone done this, but like moved all your Google Docs over to Proton? I know they have a tool where you can just seamlessly move everything over. And they have something like Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets. If anybody's done that, just, tell me how that went. That's my next step. But we are going to have to pay, and I want to pay because you pay for privacy. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, the EU does. The EU has so much more robust data privacy laws. They shut down Meta, and then Meta, the billionaires, fed us the lie that people bought that, see how we're so free in America? The government's not locking Meta down. And it was a complete hoax. Because what really happening? Med is in bed with this fascist regime, and Med is actually a ginormous surveillance app for this fascist regime. And the EU wasn't going to have anything to do with it. That's because the billionaires need to be shut down in America. And the only way we shut those down is we go back to FDR policies with a 90% tax rate where no billionaire, Warren Buffett to Taylor Swift, out of extinction. They do no longer exist. Millionaires, they can be, but billionaires, no. Yeah, I'm I I simply don't talk. In the past, I have gotten so much negativity and so much pushback when I say what I just said about America privacy that I just simply have been quiet about it and just done what I've done, which was I know America's bullshit and I know America has huge surveillance. Now, part of that was through 9/11 that should have been rescinded during Obama's era. There was a lot Obama could have done to help us in privacy and to protect the American people that he didn't do. And I blame him for that. He just didn't want to do it. He didn't want to battle it. I have the strongest security settings possible. And then, in my opinion, on a mesh Wi-Fi network to make it more secure, what I've done is that on all my devices, I have VPNs that bounce my signal around before it comes to me. It slows things down. Not hugely, but there is a speed deficit because of it. Um, you've got to have the strongest, get into your security settings on your router and put on the strongest security settings. And then, you need to have security tools on all of your devices. I have a VPN that I loaded here on my Apple. I have a VPN on all my devices. Um, I don't rely on Windows VPN. I don't trust it. I don't trust Microsoft. And so I have another layer of VPN. I do turn on Windows VPN, so I recommend that, but I don't rely on it. I have another layer on top of that. I haven't had I've been in the tech world. I'm 100% on the internet and have been for, I don't know, since 1998, that version of the internet, which is very different than our version now. And I have never had my data stolen ever online. LastPass has a dark web um, surveillance, and LastPass has notified me many times when there's been data breaches that have never made the news cycle. And then I go and, change my passwords. I keep all my passwords in LastPass. One of the biggest data breaches is to keep any password data in your web browser. Don't do that. DuckDuckGo, none of them. Do not keep your passwords in your in your browsers. Don't ever do that. I also do not keep any of my passwords on my computer. Right? They're not stored locally on my computer. All my passwords are done through LastPass, and it's a pain in the ass that you just get used to. It's worth it. In my opinion, it's protected me. So every time you go to use password, you have to go through a 2-step verification, which I set up. I agreed to. I want that. And so if you're using passwords, your passwords like multiple times a day, you have to log in multiple times a day. And I do that. And I've been doing that I've used LastPass I want to say I know I've used LastPass since 2010. I don't remember what I was using before that, but I know I started using LastPass around 2010. So I have never had a data breach at all. Okay, so I had a couple. Wait, there's another one here. Proton VPN. Oh, thanks, Carrie. I'm going to check that out. I saw they had a VPN service. I haven't looked at it. Have you used their, features for docs like spreadsheets, Word? Because I want to transfer over my Google Drive, basically. Do they have? I think they call it something different on Proton, but that's the step I'm on, is to transfer that all over, and I quite haven't done that. Because I haven't done enough research to know that I'm going to still get, it's still going to work, or if I need to find an alternative to Google Drive. I'm hoping that Proton is my alternative to Google Drive, so it's like everything is there. Well, Alan, I have a degree in CIS. I've been in tech my whole life, and my business that I lost in the natural disaster, I had a social media business. I did website design and production, and I did email marketing and social media marketing, 5 clients at a time. And usually I had long-term clients because I just did the whole shebang and I did it really well. Prior to that, when I was in corporate, I ran a web division. I started a web division for a publicly owned utility in Missouri, and I built it up for them. And I ran it until I got pregnant and had my first child. I am steeped in tech. Before I ran the web division, I actually was a coder in PeopleSoft, and I developed applications for a hospital internally in their IT department. So I am very tech savvy. My recommendation to people that aren't tech savvy is don't get wrapped up in the vernacular, because it's the verbiage that really throws people, right? So it's like figuring it out, and just you don't need to know packet switching, and you don't need to know LAN and WAN and the difference and how to set those up, right? Go to YouTube, and wherever you're wanting to figure out your next technical step, I guarantee you there's a YouTube video where somebody has walked you through it. That's where I'm going to investigate Linux for a phone. And there's a lot of people teaching you how to put Linux on an old Apple 7 phone that Apple doesn't support anymore. Because that's the thing, you've got to get a non-supported phone. So you need the guts, right, of the phone. And then when you put the operating system of Linux on it, you've got a robust smartphone. Do you see? The same thing with your laptop or your desktop. You're going to install a version of Linux, and you can do a dual boot partition. And what that means is that you can still keep Windows, and then when you want to use Windows, you boot up that part of your hard drive that has Windows, or you just stay on the Linux side, right? Most likely, because I don't want to be connected to Microsoft. I refuse all their subscriptions. I'm probably not going to do a dual boot situation. I do believe you start that way. So you have Windows, then you add on Linux, and then you remove Windows, because you can't work with it if you don't have an operating system, right? And of course, DOS is the base for all of it, right? I don't know if even people know what DOS is anymore, but that was I used DOS when you would have to put in prompts, type them in to get the computer to do what you wanted it to do. These operating systems, Windows, Linux now, what they are is basically a GUI to DOS. And what does that mean? GUI, GUI, is graphical user interface, right? So it's a graphical user interface to DOS. That's all it is. And I want to get Windows GUI off of my PC. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Proton Pass as an autofill. I would not do that. LastPass has that too. And then, so I'm on a couple of like security, I don't know what their member chat things. They call them something like hubs where they send out, hey, don't do this, don't do that. And one of the things, I think it was 2021, because it was before I lost my house in the natural disaster. They said stop using the autofill feature of LastPass because people can hackers can hack that. I don't use it anymore. I took it off. But I used to love that feature and it made it so easy, right? Through your browser, but I do not use that anymore. I'm willing to be inconvenienced for my privacy. And that's really where we are right now. People don't want to be inconvenienced. They're willing to give away their privacy. They're willing to give away their data. All social media is free in exchange for your data. You don't own anything on social media. If you haven't gone on and watched some YouTube videos about how Larry Ellison has pushed out these new terms of services that you don't get a choice to reject if you want to be on TikTok, and how draconian they are, that's the future of government-owned social media. Cory Booker was behind this. He made this happen. And TikTok has become a captured government social media platform, just like Twitter, just like Meta, which is Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger. And you got to get off of them. I do not have them on any of my devices. I do still use Facebook groups. I don't know what the alternative is for Facebook groups at this time, but I get a lot of information from Facebook groups. So the way that I do Facebook is I will download the app, look at it once a day, twice a day. If I'm waiting for some information, I'll delete, download, delete, download, delete, download, but I will not allow it to stay on my phone. And if I look at it through my browser window to check something in groups or my DM, because every now and then I do get a DM, and if I ask a question or something in groups, it's through DM on Facebook, I immediately will scrub my cache files on my browser if I open Facebook. I do not trust it. It's a surveillance app. I use Google very heavily, and that's why I'm going to Proton. YouTube is one of those social media platforms that I love, but Google owns them. And I'm highly suspicious of them. And at the same time, I heavily leverage the information I get off of Google. So one thing that I want to talk about, Google, speaking of YouTube. So many people have asked me, like, well, I don't know if I can remove my labor like you did, right? So obviously my labor was already removed because I've been an entrepreneur. But when I lost my business in the natural disaster, 2022 was blah, I was just, when you're a natural disaster survivor, that first year, you're just in adrenaline overdrive. So in 2023, I'm like, okay, I've got to do something. What am I going to do? And I knew I didn't have the funding that I had before, and we still were not remediated from the fire. There was no way I could start my social media business back up again. And, um, and so I had decided, okay, I'm going to go into digital marketing and I'm just going to monetize my skill set, right? Which I have done. My course, the beginnings course, is me monetizing my skill set. And right now I'm offering it for free when you join my paid site of Substack for $40. That's for a year, but you'll get the course for free for life. And it's my way of trying to help people remove their labor out of this economy. That we have to black out this economy. So how did I actually do that? So in 2023, I started taking courses. Online courses is the quickest way to get the knowledge you need because I had knowledge gaps because when I worked with businesses in my business, I did not use, oh, See Life as a Muse. Thank you. Now, there you go. She joined a couple of weeks ago when I was offering this same offer that I have going this week. Join my paid site of Substack and you get my course for free for life. And she's telling you it is a good course. It is a solid course. I walk you through all the technical aspects too. I don't leave you hanging. There are no upsells. And when I do update the course, you're not going to pay for the updates. You're going to just get them. I'm kind of waiting, not kind of, I am waiting on social media to fall, to get settled. And I'm going to do, I'm sure Skylight Social, Blue Skies, I'm going to do modules on how to utilize those and monetize on those. We're just not there yet. So right now, the social media piece is still Facebook and Instagram. I'm sorry, Facebook and TikTok on my course. Um, it's still valid. It's still a place to start. Um, of course, it's not the place you'd want to get off those apps, right? But it is a good place to start. Um, and so I do walk you through that. There's a lot of other ways that I tell you how to monetize, that I teach you how to monetize your skill sets. So it's not a one and done. Okay. So don't worry about that. Um, so anyway, the way that I did this, right? So, and here's the other thing. My kids now are almost at college age. And I went to college because when I went to college in the late 80s into the early 90s, you went for a profession, right? Just total bullshit. And that's not true anymore. Like I've told my kids, you don't need a college degree for a profession. I want my kids to go to college in order to expand their personality and their experiences that you only get when you're in college. I do not believe college is necessary for any kind of financial success in today's economy. Where you get your knowledge is through online courses. My course is college level, for example, and it's learning from people that have already put the rubber to the road instead of going and getting theory, right? Theory has its place, but it's not here today. So the way that I started was that I still needed money, right? And so in 2023, my daughter made this cup. Excuse me. My daughter made this cup. She wants to get a master's in fine arts in ceramics. And she's going to a really cool school right now. That's a precursor to college, where she's learning, um, not beginning level pottery, but really amazing stuff in pottery. So anyway, in 2023, I still needed money, right? We all still need money. And what I did was I used YouTube. And this is what I'm going to encourage you all to do. I went to YouTube, and there are many, many creators on YouTube that some on the daily, most on the weekly, that collect for you all the online jobs that you can apply for. They're not career jobs. They're online jobs to pay the bills. So what I ended up doing was I used those resources on YouTube and I got 2 online jobs. One was a call center job, and one was monitoring a chat, like, a call chat. And those 2 jobs, they weren't career jobs. As soon as my digital income replaced them, I was quitting. I ended up working those 2 jobs. I started at the end of 2023. I worked them all of 2024, and I quit both of them around the same time, March of 2025. So my digital income replaced both those jobs starting in March of 2025. So in 2023, right? So that's 3 years ago, 2023, about this time in late January of 2023, I got 2 online jobs so I can do them from my home. I found that information on YouTube. And I started taking courses. There's a lot of junk courses out there. I ended up spending probably close to $6,000 on courses by the end of 2023. And most of them gatekeeped knowledge. So I'd have to go out and research. I could do that because I'm technical. But I had to go out and research the technical pieces, which was crap for what I paid for. They always had upsells. If they did improvements to the course or added modules, you had to pay for them. It was garbage. I only found a few courses that didn't do that. And using those courses, I built out my income streams. I didn't start doing that. So I started researching the courses in 2023 and taking the courses through, I would say, January of 2024. So now we're at 2 years ago. I started building out my businesses. I have 2 income streams. So I'm an EFT specialist. So I have the tapping lab where I offer 5 sessions that are 90 minutes apiece. And we do it via Zoom where we work on whatever's up for you or where you're stuck through tapping. And tapping rewires your neurology. Tons of science behind it. It's an amazing emotional tool. It's one that I've used through all of my trauma with me and my kids, and it works amazingly. And then I started my Be Your Worth, which is where I sell my Canva Crash course and my beginnings course, which teaches you how to do a digital product, monetize your skill set, and actually build your business from the ground up solidly, not wobbly. And I started that in July of 2024. So my first one started around March of 2024, and then the second around July of 2024. It was like towards the end of July. And both of those started making money, but didn't replace my 2 online jobs that I had gotten from YouTube. Because I was a call center rep for Williams-Sonoma. I got that through this YouTube channel. So I wasn't able to replace those incomes until March of last year. So that was my trajectory. So I'm not advocating for anyone to quit their jobs. I'm saying you build it in tandem with whatever you've got going on. Most people, if you are in a career job, your health insurance is tied to your job, which I think is criminal. Yes. Yes. See life as a muse. That is important. You have to change your mindset, right? And part of changing your mindset is using tools like EMDR, emotional EFT, tap, which some people call tapping. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that can get you started. The reason most people come to me to use me I can give an example by using myself. When I went through traumas, like after the Marshall wildfire and I lost my house and my business, I was traumatized. I hired a colleague who's also an EFT specialist. And I worked with her for several months where I did blocks of 5 sessions, 90 minutes long, 5 sessions with her. And then I would buy another block of 5 sessions with her for about 3 months because I was not where I could come up with my own verbiage and I needed somebody to walk me through that. And then at one point I was able to start because I started rewiring my neurology and I started healing that trauma from within here. Then I was able to step in and be my own therapist, right? My own EFT specialist, not therapist, but EFT specialist. That's the goal that you always want. And I would start on YouTube. Brad Yates is an amazing EFT specialist, and he does a lot of YouTube videos. Yes, CBT helps too. That's a wonderful resource. I have it on my paid side of Substack. I have many EFT videos where I'm tapping. I'm getting ready to upload a few this week. I also have the script that I use in that EFT that you can download. You do have to be a paid member of my Substack. But then you can download it. You have it for life, right? One thing that I'm probably going to do going forward is like extracting the audio so that you can download the audio and have it on your phone. But learning EFT and being able to do it on yourself is very empowering, and I really encourage you all to do that. So just to get back to my journey, you can see that the first step to remove your labor from this economy is education. And you get that from an online course. So that's what I did in 2023. 2024 is when I started both my businesses. And between the two of them, right, it took a full year before they replaced my two my two online jobs, the call center job and the chat monitor job. So I did both of those online jobs. Again, I got those through YouTube. That's why I'm telling you this. You can go to YouTube and you can find those jobs. Because if you don't have a job, or if you're in a job you hate, go find those jobs so that you can pay your bills. Join my paid side of Substack, get my course for free for life, and start building in tandem with your job, your online business so that you can monetize your skill set. This is the long game. We need to do that because if the fascist regime fell today, things aren't going to go back to the way they were. Things aren't going to just now magically improve. That's not the way it's going to work. If the fascist regime fell today, there are years that we have to clean up and we have to have a new Congress. There's so much that has to do that the American people need to keep their foot on the gas pedal, that removing your dollars from this economy, blacking out this economy is so important. And then removing your labor at the same time. And again, that's a process, right? I'm thinking that if you guys started, now, by the end of the year, you would be able to remove your labor depending on how diligent you were and how committed you were. Yes. Yes. This has been a 250-year experiment. We got here because the founding framers set our democracy up on shaky legs. You cannot set up a democracy on white supremacy and expect it to hold. And 250 years ago, the South held our country hostage and refused to sign the Declaration of Independence if slavery was removed. Skip forward 250 years, and what's the South doing now? They're still holding our nation hostage. I do not believe the path forward is going to look like a United of States because we haven't been a United of States. I believe we're going to be two separate countries. I think it's going to be very similar to East and West Germany. And I think the South is going to be more like East Germany. And I don't know if there's going to be a wall. I don't know if it's going to be that extreme, but I think it's going to be a separate country. And I want that. I do not want to be held hostage by the South anymore. I do not want white. I do not want MAGA. I do not want the white Christian nationals. Let them have that. They've captured the White House. It's destroyed. It's not a symbol of anything that represents democracy. Let them have it. Let them be a fascist regime. That's my whole thing, is that why don't we just let them, right? Why is it that the blue states will not unite and say, we do not recognize this government? Soft secession, parallel Congress, parallel blue Congress, because we're on that step now. It can be done now. And then we have a separation. I mean, it would take a process to have a separation of two countries. But they want a fascist state. Let them have it. Fine. You don't want reproductive rights. You do not want immigrants. You adore billionaires. Fine. Have it. But the rest of us should not be held emotionally hostage by these Southern fascist extremists. And it really, truly is in the Southern states. I mean, I think probably kind of, I don't know what the cutoff would be, right? I don't know what that would look like, right? Um, I don't know if Texas is truly a fascist state because of the gerrymandering, and they're rising up. Okay. So do we write off Texas, or do we get rid of, Hot Wheels and his regime? Yes, Sea Life as a muse. We're also held financially hostage by these southern states. I'm sick of it. And that's why soft secession would work. And we've been on that step for a long while. And the Democrats are so weak and so off message and so unwilling to be in action. They're not doing it. Being our governor's total shitbag. And we're a blue state. Um, you know, the quicker Jared Polis is removed from office this year, the happier I will be. He's been the worst governor completely. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of here this week through Sunday. Join my paid site of Substack. $40 a year. That's $3.33 a month. But you get my beginnings course for free for life. I sell it for $195. The link is in my bio. If you don't want to join my Substack, don't. Go buy it on the link in my bio. Oh, you're so welcome, Sea Life. I love having you on here. Stay in touch. I'm excited to see where you go with this. You can do it. And Sea Life can tell you it is a manual process. If you decide to join my paid site of Substack, it takes me about 24 hours to get you the link to the course and get you set up. So don't freak out. It takes me about 24 hours because it is a manual process. I'm not going to automate this just for this week. And that's how I did it for Sea Life. But don't join my Substack, which is $40 a year. Don't join it, get my course, and then do nothing. I don't want you just to be collecting courses. Don't collect mine. go collect someone else's. I want you to purchase mine either with the link in my bio or by joining my Substack, and you get it for free because you're going to be in action. I'm doing this so that you will build an income stream that removes your labor from this economy. Thank you, Sea Life. I appreciate that. Yes. So Sea Life joined my paid side of Substack a couple of weeks ago when I was offering the same opportunity. And she's telling me, it's 24 hours for me to manually get it to you. So I just don't want anyone to be like, oh my God, it wasn't an automatic download. If you want the automatic download, link in my bio, $195. It's definitely worth $195. The reason I'm doing it for $40 when you join my Substack is I'm trying to get it in as many people's hands as possible, because what I want is labor removed from this economy, because I want a democracy. And this is rebellion. This is how we revolt. We take back the money, right? We have to hold this government, this nation, with our money. We have to capture them financially. And this is how we do it. Sea Life, one thing I want to say to you, make sure you go and download on my Substack, go download the Canva Crash Course, because you'll want that once you get to the Canva portion of the course. So when you join my paid side of Substack, you get for free my Canva Crash Course. It's a download. You just download it. It has 20 hours of video. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you'll want to use that once you get to that section. My Canva Crash Course is going to teach you how to organize Canva better and how to do some more detailed oriented pieces that I don't cover in the course. Oh, thank you, Maureen. I look forward to having you and being on this journey with you. My course is about 200 hours of video training. It's 20 modules. There's between 4 to 20 lessons in each module. And I cover it all, right? Yeah. This is all about setting you up so that you can be part of the revolution. And part of the revolution is getting our money out of the hands of the billionaires, out of the hands of these corrupt corporations, and out of the hands of the government, where the government cannot control your labor, because that's what they want to do. That's the end game for them. They are in league with billionaires where they want to control and extract your labor. That's the setup. It's already happening, but it's going to get more obtruse, just like everything else in this fascist regime. Remember, government money is our money. It's not government. And they've misused our money. Our true power lies in our wealth. We're a wealthy nation, and Americans are wealthy, and they have not been because of this fascist regime, these billionaires, and these corrupt businesses. And the way we take that back and say no is removing our labor. And that's a process. Yes, Maureen. And any questions you have, I answer my DMs on Substack, and you'll get my email, and you can always email me. I definitely will walk through any kind of hiccup that you're having or you don't quite understand it. I am probably going to start in the next few weeks doing lives going into technical pieces. I haven't quite figured out how that's going to look yet. But sometimes hearing it from a different angle in a different way, it clicks. Or maybe you have to hear, a lot of times people need to hear something between 3 and 5 times before it clicks. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't click the first time you go through it in the course. My course is also a done with you course. So you can build your business and your income stream and monetize your skill set as you're going through the course. Not everybody can do that. It doesn't, because everybody has a different learning style. But if your learning style is that way, my course will work with you that way. That's my learning style. So that's why I set that up like that. But you can just go through the course and then go back and build out your business. It worked for me. I'm a product of the product. If I can do it, you can do it. I promise you. Just because I have a CIS degree, just because I'm technical, doesn't make me the success. That's not the secret sauce, right? The secret sauce is working it like a business. The secret sauce is getting the education. The secret sauce is showing up and putting the effort and time in. That's the secret sauce, right? Yeah, and that works really well, Sea Life, as a muse. That does work really well to go through it first. And we went through the first module in a live, but the first module is setting you up with the verbiage, trying to help with some basic understanding of what digital marketing is versus traditional marketing. Because that's part of the knowledge set, right? Where you understand what you're doing. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. I've enjoyed this. This has actually made my day so much better already. I came on here kind of feeling a bit defeated, just because I'm so sad about the Democratic Party not doing what they know they can do. Some of you that got on here later, I was on I guess it was a lecture by a Nova Scotia professor that specializes in revolution. And he just basically laid out how it's a lie that the Democrats say they're a captured party and they can't do anything. They just don't want they don't want their weekends at the Senate floor. And I'm pissed. And he outlined a whole bunch of stuff they could be doing that they're not. You're welcome, Alan. I hope to see you soon on that, building out your income stream. I guarantee you have a skill that other people want. And don't get intimidated that, oh, well, somebody else is already doing that. Let's say you know how to do drums and, oh, well, there's somebody else already teaching drums. So what? There's going to be competition, but it's not going to be learning drums like anyone else or teaching drums like anyone else. It will be through your life experience and through your eyes. And that will connect with the people that it connects with. There's plenty for everybody. And you've got an international audience. I promise you, your skill set is valuable. You're valuable. And that's part of removing your labor from this economy is getting back to we individually are valuable. We're not just a number. And we as a community are valuable. I've had 5 friends they were making about $250,000 a year. They were in middle management in tech companies, the Intels, the Microsofts. And 2 of them got laid off mid-December and 3 of them got laid off mid-January. Or actually they got not laid off, they got fired. But this is how it was approached. Well, you can take early retirement or we're going to fire you. They all had worked most of them had all worked between 28 and 30 years for these companies. They were devastated and they're still reeling because they thought the company was loyal to them. One of my friends who got canned in January had said, Lucretia, I can't believe this. And I said, well, we've had talks about this. I've told you that corporations are not loyal to you. And he goes, well, I thought it was different with mine. I've been there for so long. My friends are finding that they cannot go and get a $250,000 job because those jobs are now taken by AI. And they didn't have a backup plan. They didn't ha they would, because I had told them many years ago, "You need to build," in 2023, I was telling my friends, "You need to build a parallel income source," and they laughed at me. These 5 people specifically laughed at me and said, "No, I will never have to do that. My corporation's loyal to me. They'll never fire me." Oh, they got fired. Early retirement. That's why we need to remove labor from this economy. They are standing on our backs, and we've got to take it back, and this is how we take it back. All right, people, go out there and revolt. This is a revolution. It does not have to be violent. We do it through the dollars. I will see you soon. Happy Tuesday.